So getting into the show right now, let's talk about the men's team. Let's talk about men's basketball. How have they done in this non-conference portion of the season? And I want to give you guys some context for this one. Last year, at this time, after non-conference play, Golden Grizzlies were 2-11. We had an injured Jalen Moore, and that was a huge loss for the Golden Grizzlies at the time, as Jalen Moore was the number one target, first team All-Horizon League for 3 years here at Oakland University. So losing him was huge. He went down, I think, it was the night before their second exhibition game at Rochester University. That game went to the final seconds. Oakland still won it, but that game was close. And then from there, they tried their best to get him going. He had an ankle injury, but he still wanted to play. Coach wanted to let him play and ended up not serving the team well. So ended up in a tumble to 2-11 going into the Horizon League part of the season. But where are the Golden Grizzlies now this year? 6-7. Well, it's just whatever to some people. Not a big deal. But Oakland has literally one of the toughest schedules in the country when it comes to non-conference play. I watched the Grizz Vision that was previewing tonight's game of Cleveland State. Can't be said that he saw a tweet that said that we are one of the top 5 toughest schedules in the country, and we're one of 3 teams to win, I believe, more than 5 games in those toughest schedules. Among those teams were North Carolina, I forget the other team, but and Purdue. North Carolina and Purdue and Oakland were the only teams in the country with the toughest schedules to come out with 5 wins or more. That's crazy. That's national. That's big time. And that's what the Golden Grizzlies have done this season. So let's run through the games and what we take away from some of them. So they started off their schedule with a couple of Big Ten games. They started at Ohio State and at Illinois. Came out with no wins on both of those games, but really gave it to the Buckeyes and really gave it to the Fighting Illini. I think that's Illinois' mascot. But either way, they played some tough teams, very tough. They led for most of both of those games. It came down to the last few minutes where those teams were able to come back into the game and put their mark on it. But Oakland was leading for, I would say, probably about 3/4 of the game. Just the last quarter is where it sort of fell apart. But that's big time for the Golden Grizzlies to start off their season. And then they move on to a home game against Bowling Green, where the Golden Grizzlies, facing a admittedly rebuilding Falcons squad, were able to win a big one at home. It was a great game. Last year, the Golden Grizzlies weren't able to win against Bowling Green, but this year they gave it to them for their first win of the season. It was a great showing. It was, honestly, it was nice. It was just simply nice to be back in the arena and nice to see the guys playing winning basketball, because they've put in the effort and they put in, they gave everything they could, deserved a nice win like that. So they are 1-2 at this point before going into the Cayman Islands. Last year, the Golden Grizzlies went to the Bahamas, the Nassau Championship Tournament. This year, they're in the Cayman Islands Classic. And Oakland, going into this Cayman Islands Classic, they played 3 games, and they were listed as the 8th seed in the tournament. Bottom of the tournament. And they came out 2-1 on the beautiful sunny weekend. I forget how many days they were there. It was 3 games in 3 days, so you could say a weekend. I think it was they came back on a Monday or Tuesday. But either way, they came out 2-1 in 3 games in 3 days against Drake, who is a top 40 team to this day. They've been up to the top 30 in national rankings, and Campy regards them as one of the best mid-major basketball teams in the country, straight up. And that was their first game in the Cayman Islands Classic. They lost that one, and then they ran away with wins in the next 2 games against Loyola Marymount and against Marshall. And Loyola Marymount is a big win for the Horizon League, and for those who aren't familiar, Loyola Marymount is a top 100 team. And Loyola Marymount has beaten NCAA teams like Gonzaga, like St. Mary's. They've fought with the best of them. And they also fought Oakland, who is... Well, I don't know where I'm going with this metaphor. Either way, Oakland was able to beat Loyola Marymount and also beat Marshall to come out 2-1 in the Cayman Islands Classic to be 3-3. Coming out and coming back for Thanksgiving. And it's been a great showing. Rocket Watts, he had a rough start, but then in the Cayman Islands Classic, he was able to make the all-tournament team. He averaged like 18 points a game and great efficiency, and he looked comfortable. He looked like himself. He looked like the guy, the natural scorer that the Golden Grizzlies want him to be, need him to be, and we know that he is. And he's been having to adjust at the point guard position to cover the loss of Jalen Moore. And we also saw DQ Cole take some of that role. Tone Hunter take some of that role. But either way, to see Rocket Watts, even in a bit of an unnatural position, be all-tournament team was great. It was a great... It was a great way to see him get back into the flow of things. So after the Cayman Islands Classic, they came into the Cintas Center, that being the home of the Xavier Musketeers. The Musketeers that were a top three seed in last year's NCAA tournament. A Musketeers team that went to the Sweet 16. One with a Hall of Fame coach. On national television, hosted the Golden Grizzlies in a bye game. I believe it was $100,000 for the Golden Grizzlies to go and be the sacrifice to the Musketeers in front of their home crowd. Except, Golden Grizzlies made out like a bandit. They beat Xavier on national television, ran away with the money, and sent Cincinnati into a frenzy. I looked on their Barstool page after their loss. It was the meme of Stephen A. crying at the raining window, saying, "Don't call me. Don't text me. We beat Xavier in their house." For Campy's 13th Power 6 win of his career here at Oakland University. And man, that game was sweet. Trey Townsend made himself a national star. I don't have the box score written down in front of me, but it was something along the lines of 28, 7, and 6. 27 points, or however many points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists against Xavier. Understand, that's a huge performance. That put him on the map. Everyone knows Trey Townsend now in mid-major basketball circles. Chris Conway had a big showing as well. He's been having a big season so far. Really getting to that into the offensive flow of things. Really getting that efficient shot going. And it's been great to see him, along with Townsend, start to come into their own. Be those big bodies in the paint. Be those efficient scorers up close. That's what we've seen so far from those guys. So they beat they beat Xavier in their house on national TV. On a Monday, on a Wednesday, they traveled to Detroit Mercy to face the Titans in Callahan Hall. Very simple. Golden Grizzlies beat them. It's business as usual in Callahan Hall. Unfortunately, it was to the point where Campy kind of is admitting that the rivalry is not what it is hoped to be. It is not a rivalry that people wish it was. It's not a competitive rivalry. And for him, he made comments about potentially lowering the stakes and importance on this game because of, kind of how much juice it requires to get up and get active for a rivalry game of that nature. And it possibly bites them in the game following. But that's just how bad we beat Detroit Mercy, man. It's not a rivalry. It's as simple as that. The Golden Grizzlies get a dub in Callahan Hall. And then Saturday, this is the third game of the week. After they come back from the Cayman Islands, they face Purdue Fort Wayne in a game like no other. In a game where Purdue Fort Wayne could not miss. A game where Purdue Fort Wayne just became superheroes. They shot 66% from the floor. They shot 65% from three. Campy called it one of the greatest games he's ever seen an opponent come in here and win and give. It was mind-boggling. However, literally, more shots went in than didn't for Purdue Fort Wayne, no matter where they shot it. They made 2 out of every 3 shots they took. That's incredible. That's insane. And there was a point where Oakland did have a shot to make it close. But this game was not close. Purdue Fort Wayne, it was 98-68. It was rough. And it's not one that can't be, I can't be mentioned in the postgame. Obviously, he's not happy about it. That's a Horizon League game that they lost. That's a permanent mark on the Horizon League record. But there was not much you can do to stop that team. Even when they played good sets on defense, even when the zone was in place, the zone that is supposed to stop the 3, there was no stopping a 3 that night. It went in, regardless if he wanted it to or not. It was incredible. So in the early part of the Horizon League season, Oakland is 1-1. Beat Detroit Mercy. They lose badly to Purdue Fort Wayne, and now they move on. Campy said, "I'm not looking at the tape for this game. This is a game that's most likely not going to be repeated. That's just an incredible shooting night, and they're just moving on right away. There's no need to sulk on that game." So after that one, that game was Saturday, and then a Wednesday, they played Toledo. This was Tuesday, December 6th, I believe. We're in December right now. And the Toledo Rockets, they came in here and gave a very good game for us to watch. It was a game that went down to the final seconds. It was a game in which Oakland had the lead, but it started to slip away. It was a comeback win for Toledo, and Oakland with the last chance to make the bucket to win the game. 3.5 seconds left on an inbound. Toss it to Townsend. Townsend could not get it off the glass to get it in, and the Rockets come out here with a win. It was a heartbreaker. We have that uploaded. We have all these games. We have all these home games uploaded to WXOU Sports if you want to hear the call. And we got highlights of some of the games as well. I'm a little bit behind on editing the highlights, but if you want to hear any of that, be sure to go and subscribe to WXOU Sports on YouTube. And that game, it was a great game. We submitted it to MAB, the Michigan Association of Broadcasters, for the Student Awards. That was a game that we submitted, because it was just a fantastic performance. But, man, it was just such a heartbreaker at the end. And to do the press conference afterwards, man, my heart goes out for Townsend after that one. It was, he had the last shot, and, man, it was tough to watch it, be forced to talk about it a little bit. So, to get that bad taste out of their mouth, it was December 8th. It was a Friday. On the road at Ypsilanti to face the Eastern Michigan Eagles. Golden Grizzlies got right. Golden Grizzlies win that one, and they had the bench emptied with 3 minutes left to go, so it was built a sizable lead in that game and just let it rip against the Eastern Michigan Eagles without Imani Bates and without Noah Farrakhan. So it was a bit of a different Eastern team that we saw last year that took us to overtime, where we still won it, but still. So Oakland gets right at Eastern Michigan, and then that starts their last 2 games, the last 2 road games after exams, against Michigan State and then against Dayton. Against Michigan State, WXOU was there in the Breslin Center. It was going to be a tough match, but I truly believed that this was going to be the year that Oakland could possibly, at the very least, make this game close throughout. It was close in the first half. The defense was there. The defense was absolutely there. But the offense was not. And we've seen this because Oakland identifies themselves as a defensive team. And there's moments where this happens where the defense is stellar, but the offense could use some more stellaricity, to make up new words for it. And it was within 8 at the half, but it was within 4 for much of the first half. Sadly, the defensive game plan to stop Tyson Walker worked in the first half, held him to 2 points. Very first play of the second half, wide open 3 to Tyson Walker. 1 pass, 3-point, goes in. There was a domino effect from there. Oakland fell to Michigan State. And it looks like next year will be the year to beat the Michigan State Spartans for real. So it was a disappointing game. There was a very nice words from Tom Izzo about Blake Lammon and about his friend Coach Campy. And I was there in the press conference. I didn't ask, we didn't say much. But the Tom Izzo part of it, very self-congratulatory, I thought. I'll be honest. That thing ran. His press conference by himself was 20 minutes. And Campy went first, and I didn't want to be rude and leave. I wanted to see what the coach was saying. But I'm like, dude, I'm tapping my wrist without a watch on. Like, this should not be 20 minutes, coach. Come on, let me out of here. And we also got a bit of advice afterwards when we were doing the broadcast review from Rico Beard himself. That was really cool. He saw us recording it, and we had a little chat with him before he left. But that was really cool to meet the man. But either way, we're sidetracked here. We're off topic. Let's get back to the basketball. Oakland lost to Michigan State. That was Monday the 18th. They then move on to the 21st against the Dayton Flyers. This is the most recent game for the Golden Grizzlies. It was not good. Oakland lost. And it was a similar one to Purdue Fort Wayne where it was, Dayton would take it, Oakland would force Dayton to take it all the way down to the shot clock. They would offensive rebound, take it all the way down to the shot clock again, but then just make a prayer shot. Just toss it up, shot clock's winding down, and they would make it. It was one of those games, can't be said. So it wasn't a great performance. I mean, let me put it this way. Campy was not mad at all about the result of the game. He was actually very pleased, and especially saw improvement in Baru Neva-Larua. In that game, he was excited. He said that Baru was dominant in the paint and protecting the rim. And that's what I want to see out of him. But, of course, the result is a loss. But it's all over. It's all Horizon League now. So some takeaways, some notable players from the non-conference part of the schedule. Jack Golke literally leads the country in three-point attempts. Some may not see that as a good stat. But that's the way Oakland basketball is played, baby. That's the way it's done. Campy has always ran his basketball teams that way, where you live and die by the three. And so far, it's a little bit of both. We've seen fantastic games. We've seen 6 of 18 from 3 against Ohio State, but we've also seen 1 of 10 against Michigan State from Golke. So you live and you die by the three. We've seen Rocket Watts, like I mentioned, he has always the potential to catch fire, especially like he did against in the Cayman Islands. And he's a key part of the defense as well. So he's a very crucial player, and especially he's going to be important in figuring out the point guard position. Baru, like I mentioned before, had a great game against Dayton, according to Campy. I unfortunately was not able to watch or listen. But Campy said that he's starting to come into his own, and he's starting to learn the sets better, and he's starting to, get more involved in the team. That's what I want. That's what I wanted all offseason. I've heard legends and tales about Baru jumping so high that it was beyond the highest measure of the Vertimax. I think that's what it's called. I've been calling it the Vertimax, the machine and the thing where they measure the jump height. He jumped over it, so we truly don't know how high he can jump. And we've seen him soar to the sky in warm-ups and in potential lobs. So to see him start to get that improvement, get Campy's approval, big smiles on Grizz Vision, I'm really excited for him. And especially down the road in the Horizon League, that's going to be a huge piece. That's going to turn this place upside down. We also see Blake Lammon. He returned in the Toledo game, in a game that he was only supposed to play 10 minutes. He played like 30. And to see him come back from a hip injury that sidelined him for most of the non-conference season, he's come back. He caught fire early against Toledo. He went 3 for 3 to start. And, to have that fifth-year Golden Grizzly leader on there, on that team, have him back is fantastic. We see Chris Conway, like I mentioned before, he shows sparks. He shows great performances on offense. Improvement still needed on defense. These are the coach's words as well. Isaiah Jones, him being the glue guy as described by the coaching staff. He's a great player. He could play offense if he needs to. He scored 16 against Marshall. But he's mostly there for defense. He's there for rebounds and for those, for that wide wingspan in the zone. He's a key piece. Campy calls him the glue guy, and I would happen to agree. And then Trey Townsend, man, he's the that's the dude. That's the head honcho. I was trying to find a metaphorical way to describe him being the number one guy in the team. I'll leave it simple. He's the number one guy in the team. I mentioned that 28-7-6 game against Xavier. He's averaging 16 points a game for this team, which leads it by a wide margin. We've seen many games close to 30. Like he's going to get his. And he's going to be a force in the Horizon League. Preseason, first team All-Horizon League. And it's looking so far like he's going to be in that first team at the end of the season as well. So overall, the defense is solid. When it gets set up, transition is, it starts to become a bit of an issue. And the offense could stagger at times. But overall, I'm excited for this Golden Grizzlies team. Last year, they were fifth in the Horizon League going into the tournament, bounced in the first round by the eventual champions. But I'm excited for this season. They at least are going to be going to Indiana for the semifinals. At least. So I'm very excited. I think they can make a run in the Horizon League. Whew. That was just the men's team. We got the women's team to talk about next here on the GioMoShow on WXOU. But before I go, I got to tell you about Round Ball Radio. Pay attention for next semester as Round Ball Radio hits the airwaves. Join DJ Deshawn for an all-exclusive talk and analysis on the game of basketball. Whether you're a fan of the NBA, NCAA, or Oakland Athletics, Round Ball Radio has you covered. Listen to Round Ball Radio Fridays at 5, right here on WXOU. We'll be right back on the GioMoShow for women's basketball and their preview for the Horizon League season. Welcome back, everybody, to the GioMoShow on 88.3 FM WXOU. It's time for women's basketball. We talked about men's basketball. If you missed it, you could go to YouTube on the GioMoShow YouTube channel to get your rewind, to get your segment of Oakland athletic coverage here on the GioMoShow. But for now, we're going to be talking about women's basketball. So they also finished their non-conference part of the season, and they will also be starting conference play tomorrow at 7 p.m. I say also, allow me to re-clarify. Friday at 7 p.m., they play Northern Kentucky at home. You can hear it on WXOU. So either way, they're starting Horizon League play very, very soon. So I want to talk to you guys about the non-conference season. What have they done? What have they shown? And players to watch out for during the conference season. So far they are 4-6 on the season overall. And looking at the way they started the season, a double overtime win over Akron in Akron, Ohio, was a big showing for the Golden Grizzlies. Linda Van Schaik had 21 points in that game and showed that the team was going to fight. And the team was going to scratch and claw. They then, unfortunately, washed that down with a couple of Big Ten losses to Michigan State and Michigan within a span of 6 days. That's tough sledding for the schedule put together by Oakland's coaching staff. They then, forgive me, plenty of storylines going by my head here. They played Cleary afterwards. Cleary is in the WAC conference. That is the Wolverine Hoosier Athletic Conference. They are not NCAA. They are about near or below NCAA D3. And they were able to score 110 on them, naturally. And this was the last game. Obviously, it was an Oakland win. This was the last game that we would see of head coach Jeff Tungett. Unfortunately, it was announced after the Cleary game that he will be undergoing emergency spinal surgery. And his return is unknown for if he will come back this season. Unfortunately, something like this happened a couple of years ago, where Tungett unfortunately had to miss a whole season. And it's been acting head coach, former assistant coach Deanna Richard, who's been piloting the the ship so far for this season. And, of course, we still wish and we still have our prayers out to Jeff Tungett with a speedy recovery and a swift return to the blacktop. And just hope that he gets better. So, moving on. So, the Cleary game, the Oakland scored, I think it was 110-52. It's what you would expect. The game was put together because the athletic director of Cleary is a former Golden Grizzly, Pioneer. She played basketball at Oakland University back in the day, and this was Cleary's first season for women's basketball. So, helping alumni out, giving them a game on the blacktop. They also followed that up with another WAC team, that being Madonna, where Oakland scored also over 110. I think it was 120. But it was a game of that nature. Again, not much to take away from there. But either way, it's 2 wins for the Golden Grizzlies. They get 2 Big Ten losses, and then they get 2 WAC wins. So I would say it balances out. They then started their early slate of Horizon League play by playing at home against Purdue-Fort Wayne. And I don't know what was going on in Fort Wayne, Indiana that weekend, but the women's team had that same fire, had that same magic as the men's team did. They were just making shots. The defense couldn't keep up, and the doors were blown off swiftly for the Golden Grizzlies as they lost to Purdue-Fort Wayne at home, and then they followed that up on the road at Detroit. That game wasn't as pretty either. That game was a little less fireworks. It was, I believe, 65-55. I don't have the whole scores in front of me, but it was, about 65-55. Detroit Mercy win, and there it was more of Detroit establishing a no-fly zone in the paint because they have 2 of the best rebounders in the Horizon League. They have the number 1 and number 5 rebounder, and there was no shot within the paint. There was nothing there. And it was just, Detroit Mercy got out to a lead, and it was just the offense for Oakland University was not able to keep up to get the lead back, and it just kind of stayed at about 7 or 8 before it ended at an 11-point win for Detroit. So after that, they played 3 MAC teams to finish out their non-conference part of the season and bring us to the present day. They started out with an ugly game against Toledo, and when I say ugly, I mean 64 free throws attempted ugly by both teams combined. I'm talking a game that moved like molasses. Moved like a student driver on the highway in the fast lane. Just unbelievably slow. Toledo had 38 free throws. They made 31 of them. Oakland had the rest. And either way, it wouldn't be enough. The differential in the point in the free throws is what ended up deciding the game. And for me, I couldn't wait to get out of there. I'll be honest. I mean, in terms of viewership, in terms of watching the game, that one was like pulling teeth, man. Unfortunate to see, but a little funny story there. So, my brother and his friends are obviously in a fantasy football league, as many people are, and the loser of last year's league had to. The punishment was they had to go to an Oakland basketball game. And the game they chose, a wise choice, was this one against Toledo. So as punishment, my brother's friend had to sit behind me as I called the game where 64 free throws were shot. So it was a punishment that fits the crime of losing the fantasy football league. But I just thought that was funny. So after that MAC loss, they followed it up with Central Michigan. This game looked as ugly as the Toledo game for the first 3 quarters. This game, there was something was missing. The energy was there. They weren't making shots. Central Michigan had this 6'5" center that didn't have to jump a single time. She just stuck her hands up, caught the ball, put it back in, and nothing Oakland was able to do with that. For the first 3 quarters, at least. And in the middle of the third quarter, Oakland was down by 20. They ended the quarter down by, I believe, 17. And something snapped. Something happened in the quarter break. After being down for so long, something awakened in the Golden Grizzlies, and they went on a 17-4 run to start the first 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. 17-4. And now they're back in this thing. Now the crowd's in it. Now there's momentum. And now Central Michigan is scared. And they're being overwhelmed with steals and stops and three-pointers. Everything was going right for the Golden Grizzlies in the last 10 minutes of this game against the Central Michigan Chippewas. It ended with an Oakland win, a huge one. A huge and entertaining win. I was doing the TV sideline for that one, and thank God they won it, because I was not going to be excited to ask Coach Richards any questions to do with with a 20-point loss to the Chippewas. I didn't want to ask about that. I wanted to ask about a 20-point comeback, and that's exactly what we got for both WXOU and both for the ESPN. So that game was very exciting. That one was awesome. And then for their final game against their final MAC team was against Miami, Ohio. This one was also exciting. This one was also worth the price of admission. This one was so much fun. It was me by myself calling it a WXOU. It was Oakland against Miami, Ohio. The Redhawks came into town and gave us a great show. The game was close throughout. And it was slow throughout. It was slow to start. The first quarter was a score of 9-8. Dude, 9-8? I thought I was going to be calling rebounds all game long. That was not the case. They picked it up in the second quarter and the game throughout. But I was worried there for a second. But regardless of how much either team scored, it stayed close throughout the entire game. No team got within 7, and it stayed more within 5 or 4 in terms of a lead going both ways. And the game went down to the last second. Oakland was up by 6, and in the last not even 60 seconds, Oakland gave up 2 crucial three-pointers, they gave up 2 crucial shots, a field goal and a 2-point and a 3-point. And that got the game, along with a free throw, into overtime. Miami was not giving up. Miami wanted their second win of the season. And in overtime, Oakland had a 4-point lead. It was like 64-60 during overtime. But Oakland just was not able to hang on. They lost that game 68-66 in overtime against the Redhawks. To bring us now to the present day. So, with a 4-6 record, unfortunately, for context and history's sake, 2 of those wins are against WAC teams. And I hate to be overly critical here, but you have 2 wins against WAC teams. You have a comeback win against a team that was 1-6 at the time. And you have a double overtime win against Akron. It's a tough schedule. It's a very, very tough schedule. So there is a lot to be worked on for the women's team. Some of the standout players, Markai McCormick leads the team in scoring. She's been on fire in certain games. She can launch it from 3. She's a great 3-point shooter, and a reason that she leads the team in scoring. Keani Westbrook is a great presence in the paint as well. She in the Miami Ohio game went 4 for 4. Didn't play many minutes, but was made every shot except for 1 free throw. I think she ended with that would be 8 points, 10 points. It was 4 field goals and 2 free throws. She's been a great addition to the team as well, adding height and adding another player in the post who could score very well. Brooke Quarles-Daniels is continuing to be and to show why she is the reigning Rookie of the Year of the Horizon League. There's been games where the defense would focus on her and she wouldn't get a whole lot of production on offense, but there are other games like against, I believe against Miami, Ohio, that she scored over 20, career high. So, Quarles-Daniels, key piece for the Golden Grizzlies, absolutely. And Maddie Skorupski, I would say, is one of the biggest additions to the Golden Grizzlies. Coming from Michigan State, she comes in clutch. She will make shots. She was a huge piece of the Central Michigan comeback win. And she, great 3-point shooter. she shows up when it matters most. That's what I've noticed with Maddie Skorupski. So she's been a great piece of the Golden Grizzlies. So overall for this team, there is iron to be sharpened. But this team, I believe, has the makings and the scoring ability to improve from last season. Last season, they were 8th seed. A lot of room to grow, and I think that they made the additions in order to make that growth happen. So, with a little bit of concern, I'm still excited for this upcoming conference season for the women's team of the Golden Grizzlies. So both the men's and the women's look vastly improved from last year. It's going to be great basketball for you guys on WXOU. Listen to it all for free for all the home games on WXOU right here. That will close out the Oakland sports section of the GioMoShow. So we got NFL to talk about. Unfortunately, there's no club sports to speak of for this New Year's break. But we're going to get into the NFL. Detroit Lions. We're going to talk about the Vikings win. We're going to talk about the Cowboys game coming up. We're going to talk about some of the miscellaneous headlines. We're going to make our picks. And then our New Year's salute. But before we do that, I got to tell you about the Blue Ski Mask Show. Mondays at 2 p.m. on WXOU, the ultimate sports show for Detroit basketball and football aficionados. In this thrilling program, Oakland Post sports editor Brock Hillig and sports reporter Kirk Szymanski will take you on an exhilarating ride through the world of Detroit Lions and Detroit Pistons. Join us and stay connected with the heartbeat of the city's sports. And never miss a beat of the action in the Motor City for the Blue Ski Mask Show. Mondays at 2 p.m. on WXOU, we'll be back with some of that NFL football therapy that you need and that I need as well. Coming up on the GioMoShow.